Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.
The Remain in Mexico policy is reinstated after a federal court ordered the Biden administration to do so. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
Migrants will now have to wait on the Mexican side of the border for asylum hearings in the U.S. Immigration Court. That's because a lawsuit filed by Texas and Missouri forced the Biden administration to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, also known as Migrant Protection Protocols. Under the Trump administration, illegal immigration decreased significantly when the policy was first implemented in 2019. Biden suspended the Remain in Mexico policy on his first day in office, and during the past few months, Customs and Border Protection agents have seen record numbers of illegal immigrants. On average, there have been about 200,000 encounters at the border per month since June.
I didn't come to stay in Mexico. Since I departed Honduras, since I left Honduras, I have said I am going to the United States. I did not say I was going to stay and live in Mexico.
The immigration office tells us that we have to stay in Mexico applying for asylum. And when you get here, you are disappointed. It is sad.
They didn't sort anything out for us over there. That is why I'm going back to my country.
The first wave to return to Mexico will leave from El Paso, Texas on Monday, according to a U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity. All return trips will eventually take place at 7 border crossings in California, Arizona, and Texas. And everyone returning to Mexico will be vaccinated against COVID-19. Although the Department of Homeland Security has re-implemented the policy, the Biden administration still seeks to end it in a way that will survive legal scrutiny. Jason Perry, NTD News.
The U.S. is expected to maintain its competitive edge over the Chinese Communist regime. And America's Secretary of Defense says the U.S. does not fear China. Here's NTD's Tiffany Meyer with the story.
The U.S. is not making any essential changes to its policy in the Indo-Pacific region, but it chose a clear rhetoric towards China's aggressions and is trying to maintain its competitive edge over the communist regime. To do so, the Pentagon intends to work closer with private industry to develop high-tech systems and strengthen ties with allies. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said on Saturday that China's recent military activity in the Indo-Pacific, including near Taiwan, are disturbing. He gave the speech at the Reagan National Defense Forum in California.
We remain steadfast to our One China policy and our commitments under the Taiwan Relations Act to support Taiwan's ability to defend itself while also maintaining our capacity to resist any resort to force that would jeopardize the security of the people of Taiwan.
Austin's speech comes as the U.S. faces China's growing economic power, as well as growing power in space, cyber, and nuclear capabilities.
We're clear-eyed about the challenge that China presents. But China's not 10 feet tall. This is America. You know, we have the greatest industry, the greatest innovators in the world, and we're going to do what's necessary to create the capabilities that help us maintain the competitive edge going forward.
Austin says the U.S. doesn't want to be in a conflict, but it doesn't fear competition either.
No, we're not seeking an Asian version of NATO or trying to build an anti-China coalition. And we're not asking countries to choose between the United States and China. But America isn't a country that fears competition. And we're going to meet this one with confidence and resolve, and not panic and pessimism.
Austin adds that he thinks there's a lot of space for diplomacy and leadership to work. China's growing threat may not be confined to the Indo-Pacific and now may be bleeding into the Atlantic. Beijing's aggression has put U.S. authorities on high alert. That says China vies to build a permanent military base thousands of miles outside its borders in an African country on the Atlantic Ocean called Equatorial Guinea. But according to the Wall Street Journal, citing classified U.S. intelligence reports, the effort has alarmed U.S. officials. The suspected base is a large Navy port in the coastal city of Bara. It's situated across the Atlantic Ocean from the east coast of the U.S. and is capable of hosting submarines and aircraft carriers. The base's location and proximity could give the communist regime an upper hand against the U.S. military. The Pentagon and the White House are taking notice. Officials there have urged Equatorial Guinea to reject Beijing's plan. If granted permission, the overseas base would become China's second in Africa. In 2017, it opened one on the other side of the continent in Djibouti, a small nation and a key Red Sea ally to the U.S. in the Horn of Africa. But that's not all China is pushing for. It's also seeking out other base-building opportunities around Africa. The chief of U.S. Africa Command told the Associated Press that the Chinese naval base there concerns him greatly.
Republican Congressman Devin Nunes is retiring from Congress in a few weeks. He will become the CEO of former President Trump's media company. Trump Media and Technology Group, or TMTG, said in a statement today that Nunes has been selected to join the company as chief executive officer. Trump, who's the chairman of the company, said Congressman Devin Nunes is a fighter and a leader. He will make an excellent CEO of TMTG. Devin understands that we must stop the liberal media and big tech from destroying the freedoms that make America great. Nunes said the time has come to reopen the internet and allow for the free flow of ideas and expression without censorship. I'm humbled and honored President Trump has asked me to lead the mission and the world-class team that will deliver on this promise. Nunes has been in Congress since 2003, and he's the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee. And the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, will have to face off against a Trump-backed Republican in the primaries. Former US Senator David Perdue announced he'll be running against Kemp in the 2022 gubernatorial election. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
Former U.S. Senator David Perdue is planning to challenge incumbent Governor Brian Kemp in Georgia's Republican gubernatorial primary next year. The 71-year-old Perdue is supported by former President Donald Trump. He was elected senator in 2014 but lost his seat in 2020. Kemp spokesperson Cody Hall says Perdue is running for governor only to soothe his own bruised ego. Perdue blames Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger for the division in Georgia.
To fight back, we simply have to be united. Unfortunately, today, we're divided, and Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger are to blame. Look, I like Brian. This isn't personal. It's simple. He has failed all of us and cannot win in November.
Kemp is seeking a second term as Georgia governor. Whoever wins the Republican primary will likely face off against Democrat Stacey Abrams, who currently has no declared opponents from her own party. Trump says it'll be difficult to beat Abrams with Kemp, adding that his base won't vote for Kemp after what he did with respect to election integrity and 2 horribly run elections. Georgia's Republican primaries will take place on May 24th next year. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A San Francisco restaurant decided to refuse service to 3 uniformed police officers after seating them, saying the officers' weapons made them uncomfortable. The decision sparked a flurry of social media comments as well as a response from the San Francisco police chief. NTD's Jason Blair has the story.
Here in San Francisco, the restaurant on the corner here behind me had seated 3 uniformed police officers, only to shortly later ask them to leave, which the officers did. The staff cited that they felt uncomfortable being around the officers' weapons. The restaurant named Hilda and Jesse posted an explanation of the incident on their Instagram account a day afterward, saying, "The restaurant is a safe space. The presence of the officers' weapons in the restaurant made us feel uncomfortable. We respect the San Francisco Police Department and are grateful for the work they do. We welcome them into our restaurant when they are off duty, out of uniform, and without their weapons." The restaurant explained their choice to local ABC7 News.
It's not about the fact that we are anti-police. It is about the fact that we do not allow weapons in our restaurant. We were uncomfortable, and so we politely asked them to leave.
The San Francisco police chief responded to the incident on Twitter saying, "The San Francisco Police Department stands for safety with respect, even when it means respecting wishes that our officers and I find discouraging and personally disappointing. I believe the vast majority of San Franciscans welcome their police officers who deserve to know that they are appreciated for the difficult job we ask them to do in their uniforms to keep our neighborhoods and businesses safe." On Sunday, the restaurant issued an apology on their Instagram account saying, "We made a mistake and apologize for the unfortunate incident on Friday. We hope this will be a teachable moment for us as we repair and continue to build bridges with the SFPD. These are stressful times and we handled this badly." Now, the incident did stir up a lot of comments on social media. Yelp is currently restricting any further reviews on the restaurant's page. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Retail stores in San Francisco's Union Square have increased security after a series of smash and grabs this year. Store windows are covered with plywood instead of holiday decorations. NTD's David Lamb speaks to a Union Square business owner.
This year, a walk through San Francisco's popular shopping district can be quite unusual for the season. Visitors won't find windows full of decorations, but rather plywood. The businesses are still open with an abundance of police.
Ever since the Louis Vuitton robbery, or however they're referring to it, Union Square has been amazing. The next day, there's like 1,000 cops.
One San Francisco native who runs a jewelry store in Union Square says the area is the safest he's ever seen.
Every merchant I know loves having the police presence in Union Square. At first, I was mad. I'm like, well, why did it take Louis Vuitton in order for the police to show up and protect all businesses? But now that they're here, I got to be honest with you, I'm not mad. I'm just happy that they're there.
The city has beefed up security, and it's common for each store to have boards available in case of break-in problems. He says businesses are quick to put the boards up, but slow to take them down.
Even when the thieves come and they steal, what they steal might cost X amount of dollars. Replacing giant windows and all of the mess and the associated problems that happens with a break-in can be much more than what the thieves can take, especially if you lock things up at night.
Some people speculate that the stolen goods could be easily sold for profit through online marketplaces. Within the past few weeks, thieves have ransacked multiple high-end retailers throughout California.
I think what we're seeing now is an advancement in technology, kind of like how flash mobs didn't exist. All of a sudden, they were able to happen. They can coordinate these attacks now, and there's not that many police officers. Everyone's talking about staffing problems, and they know they can get in and get out, and most of them will get away.
Large chains like Walgreens have recently closed shops in San Francisco due to rampant theft. There are also commercial storefronts up for lease. Several companies have downsized or left the Bay Area since the pandemic started. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Elon Musk's company Tesla is under a regulatory probe. A whistleblower claims the company failed to properly notify its shareholders when it grappled with system-related defects. The US Securities and Exchange Commission disclosed a probe into Tesla's solar panel defects. In response to a Freedom of Information Act request, the commission told former Tesla employee Stephen Henkes in September that they are currently investigating fire risks associated with defects in the solar panel system. Henkes filed a whistleblower complaint about the solar panel systems back in 2019. He was then fired from Tesla in August 2020. He sued the company, claiming the dismissal was in retaliation for raising safety concerns. Moving forward, Henkes and the public will need to wait for the commission to conclude its probe and release the findings. And former news anchor Chris Cuomo, who was recently fired by CNN, announced Monday that he's quit his SiriusXM radio show. Cuomo shared the news in a tweet. The former CNN anchor started off by saying, "The way my time ended at CNN was hard." He explained that while he has a thick skin, he also had a family for whom he says the past week has been extraordinarily difficult. Cuomo went on to say that he will no longer be doing his radio show because he has to take a step back and focus on what comes next. Cuomo was fired by CNN on Saturday. This was following the release of material suggesting he was more involved than he'd admitted in trying to help his brother Andrew Cuomo amid sexual harassment allegations. Several European cities saw thousands of protesters coming out over the weekend. They voiced their opposition to tightening restrictions and vaccine mandates that governments say are needed in the fight against rising infections and to avoid overburdening healthcare systems. People say they're concerned about vaccine safety, civil liberties, and divisions in society. This report comes from NTD's Earl Rhodes.
Over 40,000 people protested in Vienna on Saturday against a lockdown and plans for a vaccine mandate. It's the second large protest in the capital in 2 weeks.
So I'm here because I'm against forced vaccinations. I'm for human rights, and the violation of human rights should be stopped.
Austria's government said last month it would make vaccines compulsory from February, the first country in Europe to do so.
The current vaccines or the current injections that people want to administer are just not researched enough. There's no long-term studies, it's not evidence-based. In this case, no. We protect our children, that's why we're here.
A parliamentary committee this week approved doubling the length of Austria's lockdown to 20 days. In the Dutch city of Utrecht on Saturday, several thousand people protested against restrictions that came into force last weekend.
We are against getting out people from society. We are against to have not freedom of our own body.
Bars, restaurants and other public venues, including stores selling non-essentials, have to close at 5 p.m. In Berlin on Saturday, authorities didn't allow a protest of 1,000 people. But several hundred people did what they called going for a walk. Police made several arrests. In downtown Barcelona on Saturday, thousands demonstrated against the introduction of COVID passports in the autonomous region of Catalonia. COVID certificates will be needed to enter bars, restaurants, gyms and care homes.
You must also take into account that a big percentage of patients arriving at emergency units are because of side effects from their vaccines. Doctors who are sincere and open to speak say that 10% of those patients are because of the side effects of the vaccines, which in truth aren't vaccines. We all know that.
Some held signs like, "It's not a vaccine, it's an experiment," and "I want to hug my colleagues." People shouted freedom. And on Sunday in Brussels, thousands of people marched through the streets in opposition to the government's COVID restrictions. New measures include mandatory mask wearing for Belgium's primary school children. A vaccine pass is required to enter many public places, including bars and restaurants. Many protesters denounce what they see as increasing pressure to get vaccinated if they want to be part of society.
The pressure is enormous from peers, from neighbors, from colleagues, from friends, even inside families and couples. So I think the pressure is enormous. There is a big divide in the population, and that's why I'm here.
Leading the march were firemen and nursing staff. Health workers face suspension if they don't receive a COVID-19 vaccine by January the 1st. The protest turned ugly when riot police tried to block demonstrators, some of whom threw flares. Riot police used water cannons to try to disperse them. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.